안녕하세요. 원서 읽는 고양이 제니예요. 오늘은 해리포터 1권 챕터 11 퀴디치 읽어보도록 할게요. 퀴디치. As they entered November, the weather turned very cold. The mountains around the school became icy gray, and the lake like chill steel. Every morning, the ground was covered in frost. Hagrid could be seen from the upstairs windows, defrosting broomstick on the Quidditch field, bundled up in the long moleskin overcoat, rabbit fur gloves, and enormous featherskin boots. The Quidditch season had begun. On Saturday, Harry would be playing in this first match of the week of training, Gryffindor versus Slytherin. If Gryffindor won, they would move up into the second place in the house championship. Hardly anyone had seen Harry play because Wood had decided that as their secret weapon, Harry should be kept well secret. But the news of that there was playing Sika had leaked out somehow, and Harry didn't know which was worse. People telling him he'd be brilliant, or people telling him they'd be running around underneath him holding a mattress. It was very lucky. Harry now had Hermione as a friend. He didn't know how he had gotten all his homework without her, with all the last minute Quidditch pictures Woodward was making them do. She also let him Quidditch through the ages, which turned out to Harry learned that there were 700 ways of committing a Quidditch foul, and all of them had happened during a World Cup match in 1473. That seekers were usually the smallest and fastest player, and that most serious Bulldog catch in 1473. That seekers were usually the smallest and fastest players, and the most serious Quidditch accidents seemed to happen to them. That although people rarely die in playing Quidditch, referees had been known to vanish until turned up months later in Sahara Desert. Hermione had become a bit more relaxed about breaking rules since Harry and Ron had saved her from the mountain troll, and she was much nicer for it. The day before Harry's first Quidditch match, the three of them out in the freezing courtyard during week, and she had conjured them up a bright blue fire which could be carried around in jam jar. They were standing with their backs to it, getting warm, when Snape crossed the yard. Harry noticed at once that Snape was limping. Harry, Ron, and Hermione moved closer together to block the fire from view. They were sure it wouldn't be allowed. Unfortunately, something about their guilty faces caught Snape's eye. He leaned over. He hadn't seen the fire, but he seemed to be looking for a reason to tell them off anyway. "What's that you got there, Potter?" It was Quidditch for the ages. Harry showed him. "Library books are enough to be safe outside the school," said Snape. "Believe it to me, 5 ones from Gryffindor." "He's just that muddled up," Harry muttered angrily as the Snape blinked away. "Wonder what's the British lad to know but really hurting him," said Ron bitterly. The Gryffindor common room was very noisy that evening. Harry, Ron, and Hermione sat together next to the window. They were taking the Harry and Ron charm homework for them. She would never let them copy. How will you learn? But by asking her to read it through, they got the right answers anyway. Harry felt lustrous. He wanted Quidditch through the ages back, to take your minds and the nerves about tomorrow. Why should they be afraid of Snape? Getting up, he told Ron and Hermione he was going to ask Snape if he could have it. "Rather you than me," said together. But Harry had an idea Snape wouldn't refuse if there are other teachers listening. He made his way down to the storage room and knocked. There was no answer. He knocked again. Nothing. Perhaps Snape can left the book in there. It was worth a try. He pushed the door ajar and peered inside. An horrible scene met his eyes. Snape and Filch were inside, alone. Snape was holding his robes above his knees. One of his legs were bloody and mangled. Filch was handing Snape bandages. "Blasted thing," Snape was saying. "How are you supposed to keep your eyes on all three heads at once?" Harry tried to drink quietly, but Potter! Snape's face was twisted with fury as he dropped his robe quickly to hide his leg. Harry thought, "I just wonder if I could have my book back." "Get out! Out!" Harry laughed before Snape could take any more points from Gryffindor. He sprinted back up the stairs. "Did you get it?" Ron asked as Harry joined them. "What's the matter?" Under the low whisper, Harry told them what he'd seen. "You know what this means?" said Finnish graciously. "He tried to get past that three-headed dog at Halloween. That's where Harry was going when we saw him. His eye was very guarding, and that with my broomstick, he like that trolling to make a diversion." Hermione's words were wide. "We wouldn't steal something Dumbledore's keeping safe." "Honestly, Hermione, you think all teachers are saints or something?" snapped Ron. "I'm with Harry. I wouldn't put anything past me." "But what's your after? What's that dog guarding?" Harry went to bed with his head buzzing with the same question. Neville was snoring loudly, but Harry couldn't sleep. He tried to empty his mind. He needed to sleep. He had to. He had his first Quidditch match in a few hours. But the expression on Snape's face when Harry was in his leg wasn't easy to forget. The next morning dawned very bright and cold. The great hall was full of the delicious smell of fried sausages and the cheerful chatter, and everyone looking forward to a good Quidditch match. "You got 2 eggs for breakfast. I don't want anything." "Just a bit of toast," wiggled Hermione. "I'm not hungry." Harry felt terrible. In an hour's time, he'll be walking onto the pitch. "Harry, you need your strength," said Seamus Finnegan. "Seekers are always the ones to cover my other team." "Thanks, Seamus," said Harry, but he watched Harry's pile ketchup on his sausages. Like 11 o'clock, the whole seemed to be out of the storm and lined the Quidditch pitch. Many students had been binoculars. The seats might be raised high in the air, but it was still difficult to see what was going on sometimes. Ron and Hermione joined Neville, Seamus, and Dee, the right-hand friend, under the top wall. As if surprised for Harry, they picked up a large banner under the street Scabbers had ruined. It said, "Potter for President," and Dean, the verse going jarring, had a large Gryffindor lion underneath. When Hermione got from the trick of a charm, set up the paint fresh, different colors. Meanwhile, the ingenuous and the rest of the things were chained into their scarlet frigid robes, slithering in green. Wood cleared his throat to silence. "Okay, ma'am," he said. "And women," said Chaser Angelina Johnson. "And women," Will agreed. This is it. The big one, said Fred Weasley. The one with every uniform, said George. We know Oliver Stitch by heart, Fred told Harry. We were on the team last year. Shut up, you two, said Wood. This is the best team Gryffindors had in years. We're going to win. I know it. He glared at them all, if to say, or else. Right, it's time. Good luck, all of you. Harry followed Brother George dressing room and, hopping his knees onto get way, walked onto the pitch to loud cheers. Madame Hooch was refereeing, stood at the middle of the pitch looking at two teams, her broom in her hand. Now, I want a nice fair game, all of you, she said, once they were gathered around her. Harry noticed he shouldn't have been speaking particularly to the Slytherin captain, Marcus Flint, a sixth year. Harry thought Flint there's some troll blood in it. Out of the corner of his eyes, he saw fluttering Vanna high above, flashing "Potter for President" over the crowd. His heart skipped. He faked favor. Mount your brooms, please! Harry climbed onto the Nimbus 2000. Madame Hooch gave a loud blast on her silver whistle. 15 brooms rose up, high, high into the air. They were off. And the quaffle is tainted immediately by Angelina's self-control, Madam as girl is and rather attractive too. Jordan, sorry, Professor. The Weasley twins' friend Lee Jordan was doing with commentary for the match, closely watched by Professor McGonagall. And she's really betting along about that. Ned passionately displayed following the all of the Woodside dear, only wizard, Victor Johnson, and no Slytherin. The quaffle, Slytherin Captain Muscle Flint gazed the front of the ghost, flying like an eagle up there, was going to no stop by the excellent move by Gryffindor keeper Wood and Gryffindor take a quaffle. The tracer came in them even over there. Nice stab around Flint off the field and ouch! Then must have hurt him the back of the head by the glacier. Couple take over Slytherin. That Aaron Pussy standing up the post, and he was jumped by second bludger. Sent away for the George Weasley can't reach. Nice play with the Gryffindor Vader. Anyway, the Johnson back into position of the cover kept the head where she goes. She's really fine. Though just upstanding by the Commander. That's Mrs. Gryffindor's goal. Gryffindor cheers filled the cold air with howls and moans from the Slytherins. Back up there, move along. Hagrid! Ron and Hermione squished together to give Hagrid enough space to join them. Being reached from the heart, said Hagrid, patting a large pair of the binoculars around his neck. But it isn't the same as being in the crowd. No sign of Snitch yet, hey? Nope, said Ron. Harry hasn't much to do yet. Kept out of town. Oh, have something, said Hagrid, binoculars and peering skywards at the speck that was Harry. Way up above them, Harry was gliding over the game, squinting about for some sign of the snitch. This was part of his and Rube's game plan. Get out of the way and catch the sign of the twitch, was said. If we didn't want to attack, we'd have to be. When Angelina had scored, Harry had done a loop ahead of his headlings. Now he was back to staring aloud to Snitch. Once he caught sight of the flash of gold. It was just reflection under the Weasley's and once the latter decided to come pelting his way, with like a cannonball than anything. But Harry dodged it, and Phil Edward came chasing after it. All right there, Harry, he had to yell as he bit the bludger furiously toward Marcus Flint. Slytherin in possession, Lee Jordan was saying. Trace of pussy dogs, 2 bludgers. two whistles and chased a bell and sped toward the rhythm moment. Was that the snitch? A moment, a runner through the crowd at Edwin Pusey dropped the coral, too busy opening over his shoulder at the flash of gold where the past of his left ear. Harry saw him. In a great rush of excitement, he dived downward into the sacred gourd. Satyr and Saker turned seats had seen it too. Neck and neck they hurtled toward the snitch. All the chasers seemed to have forgotten what they were supposed to be doing as they hung in midair to watch. Harry was faster than Higgs. He could see the little round ball, wings flaring, darting up the head, foot on an extra spurt of speed. Wham! A roar of rage echoed from the Gryffindors of Low. Malcolm's flint had blocked Harry on purpose, and Harry's broom spun, of course, Harry holding on for dear life. Foul! Screamed Gryffindor. Madame Hooch spoke angrily to Flint, and all them with the few shifted the golfers for Gryffindor. Back on the road of Persian, of course, the golden snitch had disappeared from sight again. Down in the stands, Dean Thomas was yelling, "Standing up, ref, red card!" "This isn't proof for Dean," righted him. "It concerned that he fell off in Quidditch, and what's a red card?" Dean sighed. With the air, Lee Jordan was finding it difficult not to take sides. So, after that obvious of this disgusting of cheating, "Jordan," growled Professor McGonagall. "I mean, after that open and reverting foul, Jordan, I'm warning you." All right. That Flint nearly kissed the Gryffindor seeker, which could happen to anyone, I'm sure. So unparity to Gryffindor, taken by Spinnet, who put it away with no trouble, and we could continue play. Gryffindor still in position. It was as Harry dodged another Roger, which went spinning dangerously past his head, that it happened. His broom gave a sudden, frightening lurch. For a split second, he thought it was going to fall. He gripped the ball tightly with both his hands and knees. He never felt anything like that. It happened again. There was a third room was trying to buck him off. But Nimbus 2000 did not suddenly decide to off their riders off. Harry tried to turn back towards the Gryffindor golfers. He had hoped Mindor's would to curl time up. Harry realized that his broom was completely out of his control. He couldn't turn it. He couldn't drag it at all. It was zigzagging through the air and every now and then making fire and searching movements which almost incited it. Lee was still commentating. Slither in precision, Flint with the coffle, plus 6 Ninnet, plus the spell. He caught in the first brave bludger who his nose, only joking Professor. Slither in skull, oh no! The Slytherins were cheering. No one seemed to notice that Harry's broom was being strangely. It was carrying him slowly higher, away from the game, jerking and twitching as it went. "Don't know what Harry's thing's doing," Hagrid mumbled. He stared through his binoculars. His eye didn't know whether to control of his broom. But it can have. Suddenly, people were pointing at Harry all over the stands. His broom had started to roll over and over, with him only just managing to hold on. Then the whole crowd gasped. Harry's broom had given a wild jerk, and Harry swung off it. She was now dangling from it, holding on with only one hand. "Did something happen to it when Flint blocked him?" Seamus whispered. 2000. At these words, Hermione seized Harry's binoculars. Instead of looking at Harry, she started to looking friendly at the crowd. What are you doing? Moaned Ron, grey-faced. I knew it, Hermione gasped. Snape, look! Ron grabbed the binoculars. Snape was in the middle of the stands opposite them, with his eyes fixed on Harry, and were muttering non-stop under his breath. He's doing something, jinxing the broom, said Hermione. What should we do? Leave it to me. Before Ron could say another word, Hermione had disappeared. Ron turned the binoculars back on Harry. His broom was vibrating so hard, it was almost impossible for him to hang on much longer. The whole five were on their feet, watching terrified, as the Weasley flew up to try to pull Harry safely into one of their brooms. But it was no good. Every time they got near him, the broom would jump higher still. They jumped the door and circled beneath him, obviously hoping to catch him if he fell. Myrtle Flint seized the couple and scored 5 times without anyone noticing. Come on, Hermione, Ron muttered desperately. Hermione had fled away across the stand where Snape stood and was racing around the row behind him. She didn't even stop to say sorry as she knocked Professor Quirrell headfirst into the row in front. Reaching Snape, she crouched down, pulled out her wand, and whispered in few well-chosen words. Bright blue flames shot from her wand onto the hem of Snape's robes. It took perhaps 30 seconds for Snape to realize it was on fire. A sudden yelp told her that she would have done job. Scooping the fire and little jar in the pocket, scrambled back under the row. Snape will never know what had happened. It was enough. Up in the air, Harry was suddenly able to clamber back into his broom. Neville, he can look, Ron said. Neville had been shoving into Hagrid's jacket for the last 5 minutes. Harry was speeding toward the ground when the Christ saw him clap his hand to his mouth as though he was about to sick. He hit the verge of all falls, coughed, and something gold fell into his hand. I've got the snitch, he shouted, waving above his hand, and the game ended in complete confusion. It didn't catch it, it just slowed it. Flint was still howling 20 minutes later, but it made no difference. Harry hadn't broke any rules, and Lee Jordan was still happily shouting the result. Gryffindor had won by 170 points to 60. Harry had another pistol. He was being made a cup of strong tea back in Hagrid's stock, where there was Ron and Hermione. It was Snape, Ron explained. Hermione saw him. He was cursing a broomstick, muttering, he couldn't take his eyes off you. Rubbish, said Harry. You hadn't heard a word of what had gone next to him in the stands. Why was Snape say something like that? Harry, Ron, and Hermione looked at each other, wondering what to tell him. Harry decided on the truth. I found out something about him, he told Hagrid. I tried to get past that 3-headed dog at Halloween. It bit him. We think he was trying to steal whatever is guarding. Hagrid dropped the teapot. How do you know about Fluffy? He said. Fluffy? Yeah, he's mine. Bought him with the great champion in the convent last year. I lent him to Dumbledore to guard the... Yes, said Harry eagerly. Now don't ask me any more, said Hagrid gruffly. The top secret, that is. But Snape tried to steal it. Rubbish, said Hagrid again. Snape's a Hogwarts teacher. He did nothing of the sort. So why did it just to kill Harry? Cried Hermione. The afternoon's events suddenly seemed to obtain her mind about Snape. I know a fortunes I see one, Hagrid. I read all about them. You got to keep eye contact, and Snape wasn't blinking at all. I saw him. I'm telling you, you're wrong, said Hagrid hotly. I don't know why Harry's broom acted like that, but Snape wouldn't try to catch students. Now listen to me, all three of you. You're meddling in things and don't concern you. It's dangerous. You forget the dog, and you forget what's guarding. Between Professor Dumbledore and Nicholas Flamel. Aha! Said Harry. So there's someone called Nicholas Flamel involved, is there? Hagrid looked furious with himself. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.